So a couple of days ago, probably one of the most damning allegations I have ever seen come out about any YouTuber has come out against the king of all allegations, Mrbeast. As you probably already are aware, Mrbeast has been going through some stuff. The situation with Mrbeast is pretty crazy, but the allegations that came out 9 days ago against him are the worst yet. And I'm actually kind of surprised that this one has been just swept under the rug almost. No one's really talking about this one. So a couple days ago, a content creator by the name of Honestly came out with a video called Most Damning Mrbeast Allegation is About Feastables, Dogpack Approved. And this video has some really insane in it that honestly I would have never expected to hear. But in this video, he goes on to kind of prove, in my opinion, that Mrbeast is using slave labor and child labor to produce feastables.
It's likely then that Mrbeast is now using child labor and forced labor for Feastables chocolates.
Now, for those of you that do not know anything about the chocolate industry, I'm going to teach you something right now that isn't just about Mrbeast, but the chocolate industry is one of the most evil industries on the goddamn planet. Chocolate, if you guys don't know, is running out in the world. We don't have a lot of it anymore. The supply could never meet the demand. And that is because of the fact that cocoa beans don't grow fast enough. This has led to chocolate becoming more and more expensive as time goes on, leading to the workers needing to be paid more as well, as it's really hard and rare to get your hands on chocolate. How a lot of companies cut that cost is simply by just not paying their workers and using children instead.
His favorite treats, but a CBS News investigation found the cocoa used by candy giant Mars is harvested by impoverished children in Africa. Deborah Pata gets a closer look in this exclusive report.
This is a very, very known thing within the chocolate industry. Look up literally any chocolate brand, any single one of them, try and tie them back to their factories, you're going to find some shady shit. So what exactly is being alleged about Feastables then? Well, Feastables actually had at one point been slavery free. And in this video, honestly goes to show that that is no longer the case.
When Feastables first launched in January of 2022, if you went into their FAQ, their frequently asked questions section, they proudly displayed that they were child labor free and slave labor free. As a matter of fact, in April of 2023, they doubled down and they added to their list of main menu options this option that said we're slave free. And if you clicked it, it had an entire dedicated page talking about how they were free of slave labor and child labor. But just a few months later, in October of 2023, that main page item that said we're slave free, that was removed. In addition, in the frequently asked questions section, that stuff about being child labor free and slave labor free, that stuff also disappeared. Later in May of 2024, and even to this day, there's no mention whatsoever at all about any kind of ethical sourcing of ingredients.
Now, I don't know why you would take the slave labor free thing off of your website. In my opinion, it makes no sense. What would be the point of that if you're not using slaves? The only way that makes sense is if you can get in legal trouble for not being slave free, because as slavery is illegal in the United States, it's not illegal in a lot of other countries. Specifically, child labor and slave labor is not illegal in Peru, which is where the Feastables chocolate is actually made.
And oftentimes these farmers, they are too poor to ever even eat the chocolate itself. Case in point, Feastables is made in Peru, but guess where it's not sold? Peru.
Does this mean that Mrbeast is using slave labor? Nope, it is just an allegation, but it's not looking good for Mrbeast either. This video also goes on to say that Mrbeast would most likely have been planning this whole thing the entire time, which in my opinion is a little iffy, but he does bring up some evidence that might make sense. The evidence simply being that Mrbeast never actually put the slave labor or the Rainforest Alliance logo on his packaging.
When I saw the packaging for Feastables, both old and new, there was no Rainforest Alliance certified logo anywhere. Now, why would these brilliant marketers choose to leave that off when that would, again, boost your brand favorability in the eyes of consumers? The only conclusion that I can think of is that Mrbeast knew. He knew that one day they were going to get rid of that certification. You see, if one day that package has a frog logo on it and the next day it disappears, people will notice. They will especially notice because the Feastables bar, Mrbeast sent this thing to everyone, to all the huge YouTubers.
The Rainforest Alliance logo, by the way, it's something that you get if your chocolate is slave labor free and your ingredients are ethically sourced. But once 2023 hit, all of that was taken off of his website. Now, why would he not put that on the Feastables bar exactly? I'm not actually sure. Which is why it doesn't make any sense to me. That would actually raise the price of Feastables, and that would make Feastables look like a way better brand for you. and a way more ethical brand. But the allegation being thrown at him is that he didn't put those on there specifically so that way later down the line when they needed to, they could switch to slave and child labor because production was not going the way they needed it to.
Pretty wild. We have 4 chocolate lines going and we can't meet demand. So we need way more chocolate lines.
I think Mr. knew all along that they would have to scale. And when they scaled, they were going to move away from Machu Picchu foods. That means away from their halal certification, away from the kosher certification, away from the Rainforest Alliance certification. And that's why they chose to omit these things from their packaging. Because if one day it was kosher and halal and the next day it wasn't, then people might start to ask questions as to why. And when they ask questions as to why, they might also discover that, you know what else has been changed? The stuff about child labor free and slave labor free. Why would Mr. do all this? The simple answer is money.
As I said earlier in this video, the supply for chocolate will never be able to meet the demand. Another quick little fun fact about chocolate. Chocolate is a source of dopamine. It can spike your dopamine receptors, even if it's not filled with sugar. It releases the exact same hormones that sex does, actually, and it will have the same type of euphoria. It's not a joke, this is just science, you can look this up. Which makes chocolate a pseudo-addictive. Kind of like cheese, but we don't really talk about cheese that way either. Which is why even shitty chocolate, like in my opinion feastables, will be sold out and the supply will never meet the demand. Honestly, also makes a really good point about how there is a massive paper trail on feastables, as almost every single Mrbeast video has feastables in it. Mrbeast sent feastables out to thousands of content creators, and it's literally everywhere. There's so many videos and TikToks and YouTube shorts about feastables because of the amount of competitions that Mrbeast ran.
He ran competitions, he got people to take selfies with it, take pictures on the shelves. This thing has a paper trail 10,000 miles long. And again, if one day it had that frog and the next day it was missing, people were gonna notice. So instead, they decided to only put it on their website because at the end of the day, who the hell reads a website except for weirdos like me? And if it was on the website one day and then gone the next, no one would notice except for, again, weirdos like me.
And he's basically using this as a way to say, well, if they had all those labels on the Feastables bar and then all of a sudden they changed that, people would start asking questions. But if it's only changed on the website, who actually cares? No one checks the website, which this is true. I would have never expected that to be a thing that happened. And I'm guessing a lot of people didn't either, since this happened in 2023 and we're almost at the end of 2024 already. The worst part about this is the way that Mrbeast most definitely runs his philanthropy. He uses Feastables as a way to reach children, and he's very keen on promoting his philanthropy through Feastables, which is really insane to me. If you're using slave labor to make your chocolates, how exactly are you going to be able to tell me that the philanthropy that you're doing is legit? And honestly, there really is not a reason for Mrbeast to take these labels off of his website, unless he is using slave labor. And like I said, slave labor is a very, very common practice with chocolate. Specifically chocolate. Honestly, it's a very well-known practice with every single industry. If you have anything that is cheap, probably some sort of unethical workforce being used there. But Mrbeast probably should know a little better, and if you're going to tout yourself as this philanthropic guy who is saving lives, maybe don't exploit a working class like that. Yeah, let's not do that. Especially children, because one of the main reasons you get the slave labor free thing is so that way you don't have child labor in the mix of your company. And since your main audience is children, brother, you should probably rethink what you're doing with that. Especially since you just released a whole new line of toys that probably is also unethically sourced. Now, I'm not some fucking martyr, obviously. The shirt that I'm wearing, I don't know how expensive it was. It probably was pretty cheap. It came from Hot Topic, so I am against slave labor, but it's not like I'm going out of my way to buy $100 t-shirts. I'm broke, okay? But it is a little weird for someone who is touting themselves as being the savior of humankind, going out and doing all these acts, to then turn around and exploit children in mass in factories. That's a little fucked up. And I know I said that I was not going to be doing another Mrbeast video until either A, Mrbeast himself drops the response video, or B, Dogpack drops his third video. But I just had to cover these allegations specifically. They're pretty damning. And this isn't just someone clout chasing. The guy actually brings some pretty interesting evidence and actually kind of knows what he's talking about. Unlike half the people that have been coming after Mr. Beast, which I'm going to be making a video about that soon, simply because it kind of makes me upset and mad how many people are using this as a way to clout chase. Mr. Beast is most definitely going to have to talk about this one in his response as well, and the longer that he takes with that response, the more and more shit is just going to pile up. I know a lot of people are probably feeling that Mr. Beast fatigue, trust me, I know, but some allegations are actually worth talking about. So hopefully you guys can excuse this one. Anyways, if you like this video, please go ahead and leave me a like. Please go ahead and subscribe and comment down below. Let me know what you think. Shout out to my members for being the silliest geese on the planet. Currently, we are doing streams every day on this channel and on Twitch, so go check them out. We're doing a the most drama controversy tier list of all time. So, which you'll probably see on this channel soon. And hey, if you like this video, please go check out my last video. That was pretty good. So,